I'm really up here representing a small group of friends who grew up with Stanley in Cleveland in the early days. And I should tell you right now, I know everybody's calling him Stan, but he was in the Stanley. So it's kind of a hard habit to break. So for the next couple minutes, you may hear some Stanleys come out of my mouth. But this is really a particular honor for me because Stanley and I began kindergarten at the same elementary school when we were both 5 years old. So I think really, other than his relatives, I don't think there's anybody that's known him longer than I have. And because of that, and because of how long all of us have known him, I think I can kind of share a little bit of perspective on our friend here. We knew from back in those days that something a little different about Sam. So, and you can just tell that by conversations people would have with each other. So the normal conversations I would have with some of my friends were, hey, did you see the Browns game the other day? Or did you catch the baseball game? Or did you see what was on TV last night? Stanley would come up to me and say, did you see what the stock market did? And I would say no. I'm 7 years old. What is a stock market? Is it a toy store? I don't know. So we knew back from very, very early that Stanley really had a one-track mind, and that was business. So we knew he was going to be a businessman. So as the years went on, we got older. We started going out. We learned to drive. We started going out every weekend, and the night never ended until we went to our local deli, Corky and Lennox. So no matter what we were doing, whether we were at a party, whether we were just creating mischief, whether we were sneaking beer, we couldn't end the night until we went to Corky and Lenny's, because really, who wants to, end the night before you have a half a pound of chopped liver? So there would always be a very large group of us. So because there was a large group of us, we made sure that Bill always went to Stanley because he could figure it out. He was the business guy. He was the smart one. So you have to kind of picture this. There was always a large group of us. You got to picture like 6 people sitting at a large booth or a large table. All of us ate. Stan would see the bill, $50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $10 a piece. And this went on for years. So you can ask yourself, was he really that conniving or were we really that stupid? But I remember with fondness a Christmas morning. We were either in high school or home from college on winter break, and Stan called me in the morning and said, what are you doing today? Well, I'm a Jewish kid on Christmas Day, living with my parents in the 70s. I happen to be free. At least until dinner time when we went out for Chinese. So I said, what's up? Well, Stan's mom, who had a great store called Stitch in Time, and like all stores on Christmas, it was closed, so she thought it would be a good idea to do inventory that day. So she said, Stanley, why don't you call a friend? So he called me up, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. He said, that's great, because it'll just take a couple hours. We'll make some extra money. My mom will pay in cash, so there's no taxes. And whatever she pays, I'll split with you. 60-40. So, yeah, you may be saying, okay, this is a toast, this doesn't sound that flattering. But I can tell you that for Stanley, this trait was one of the things that made him so endearing to all of us who have known him for so long. And I don't think any of us really realized that until a few years later. We found ourselves in Florida at the wedding of a friend. I think we were in Fort Myers. And we got into a card game with some people the night before the wedding, I think. And I need to first tell you what it was like to play cards with Stanley. It was interesting. I don't want to say Stanley cheated, but let's just say he took advantage where he could. So if we were playing poker and somebody said they had the winning hand and Stan said, no, I have that beat, but he wouldn't show you the cards. Or there'd be an ace missing, or the best example actually was a game we played and this is politically incorrect, so if there's any Native Americans here, I apologize, but the game was called Indian. And the way we played Indian was, everyone got dealt one card face down. And the dealer would count to 3. On the count of 3, you picked up the card and put it on your forehead face out, so everybody could see your card except you. And so you had to look around and judge how much you wanted to bet based on that. Well, when we started doing that, mysteriously things would start appearing in front of Stanley, like a shiny spoon, a pair of glasses, a mirror was tilted a certain way. So we kind of had to de-Stanlify the room a little bit. So back to Florida. So we started playing cards with these guys, and a few hands in, Stanley starts in with some of his shenanigans, and we start giggling. But there's one guy who really doesn't find this too amusing. And with every hand, this guy's getting madder. And Neil, his name was Neil. He's madder and madder and madder, and his face is getting redder and redder. And finally, he stands up, and he throws the cards down, and he looks at us, and he says, I don't know how you guys can be friends with him. He bolts out the door. And we just looked at each other and started laughing hysterically. Because Neil didn't get it. The reason we were friends with Stanley was simply because we knew him. And I can tell you that to know Stanley Berkman is to love Stanley Berkman. The whole money thing with Stanley, that's kind of his shtick. And it's funny, and he laughs at it, it's harder than anybody. But I can tell you that while he may have money on his brain, and he does, his heart is made of gold. Absolutely. And he cares deeply about his family and his friends. If you're a friend of Stanley's, he'll do anything for you. He's done it for me. I know even last year I had some health issues, and Stanley called me all the time. So the bottom line of that is that guy Neil didn't get it. The great thing about this weekend is that one of the things we're here to celebrate is how much Chris gets it. And that makes Chris the coolest guy in the room. I could actually take more time. I could sit here all night and I could tell you stories that involve garage door openers, that open up people's garage doors. And we opened this one guy's garage door every weekend for months until we got caught and one of us had to go to court. I think Stanley's mom is still a little bit mad at us. Sorry, even stories about Stan's father, who was good enough to actually enter Stanley into a drawing to win a car. And miracle upon miracle, Stanley won that car, and a few years later, when he didn't need it anymore, he sold it back to Al. So again, we could go on and on. Any of us can go on and on. But what I'd like to do at this time is ask this group of friends. Some of us are known as I think that Steve and Dan, Dave, Elise, and Joy. Can you guys come up here? We are the Cleveland Friends. And if you would all just raise a glass, please, to Chris and to Sam. May they always get each other, and may they continue to have a long, happy, and healthy life together. Mazel tov.